27. We start a new section in the book of Genesis. Jacob, for the next 8 chapters, from here to 35, it's all about Jacob and the things that goes on with him. Father, we lift up this study. Once again, we ask you to speak to our hearts, reveal your truth to us, that we might receive the nuggets of truth from you, placed in our hearts, that we will not sin against you, that we're able to live for you. So I pray for conviction. I pray for encouragement. I pray for truth to be revealed to our heart. And I pray for humbleness of heart. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So chapter 27, like I said, we're starting a new section here with Jacob and his life and what happens to him. So now it came to pass, when Isaac was old, and his eyes were so dim that he could not see, that he called Esau his older son, and said to him, My son. And he answered him, Here I am. Then he said, Behold now, I am old. I do not know the day of my death. Now therefore, please take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me, and make me savory food, that's delicious food, such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die. So, of course, a couple of things that very evident is Isaac felt that he was old. Now, he was about 137 years old at this time. So, in today's standard, that's way beyond old, right? That's old. He's going blind, he can't see, his eyes are dim, and he's feeling he's about to die. And so since he's going to die, it's like he's asking for his last meal. And he says, go get me some food, kill something for me and bring it back, and that I might eat, and then I will bless you. The thing is, he lived another 43 years. So he wasn't about to die. Like he says, I don't know the day of my death. And he didn't, because 43 years later is when he finally will die. Genesis 35:28 says, Now the days of Isaac were 180 years. So he lived a long life, even though he felt all these ailments like the rest of us, right? We're getting old. My eyes are dim. My knees are knocking. My head hurts. All this stuff, that's what we feel. He's feeling the same thing. But he wants food. His hunger for his fleshly appetite is brought out again. Remember, Isaac loved Jacob and Rebekah. Who am I thinking? Rebekah. Rebekah loved Esau. Yeah, you know what I mean. And so he's hungry and he wants something to eat, and so he's going to have him go out. And it says, Now Rebekah was listening to Isaac when he spoke to Esau his son, or when Isaac spoke to Esau his son. And Esau went to the field to hunt game and to bring it. So Rebekah spoke to Jacob, her son, saying, Indeed, I heard your father speak to Esau, your brother, saying, Bring me game and make savory food for me, that I may eat it and bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice, according to what I have commanded you. Now go to the flock and bring me from there 2 choice kids of the goats, and I will make savory food for them, for your father, of them from your father, of your, let me start over. And I will make savory food from them for your father, such as he loves, then he shall take it to your father, that he may eat it, and that he may bless you before his death. So one of the things that is kind of interesting, of course, Rebekah's got her own plan of doing stuff, but this savory food that they're going to have, and it's interesting that Isaac says he's going to bless Esau. So there's a possibility, and I don't think it's true, that he didn't know that Jacob was to be the younger who would take charge over the older. Or he still wanted to bless Esau in spite of Jacob. One or the other, which is kind of interesting because why would he do that being a man of God the way he was? But of course, Esau by tradition was the elder and supposed to be the one who received the blessing. But here it's just interesting that he doesn't want to do that. He wants to bless Esau instead of Jacob. And so Rebekah comes up with this plan because she overheard Isaac talking to Esau about this whole thing and about the food and all this stuff. And she tells Isaac, go get some goats and let me cook them for your father, this savory food, and then we can bring it to him and he will bless you before he dies. So again, we know Rebekah knew because remember she was pregnant. She had 2 nations in her. Genesis 25:23 says, and the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 people shall be separated from your body. 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. So we know Rebekah knew. I just can't believe Isaac didn't know. It seemed like she would have told him that. You know, she's probably this big and all this struggling going on and all this stuff. And so her plan is to trick Isaac in order to get the blessing to her son Jacob. So to me, she'll do whatever it takes for Jacob to be blessed, which is interesting because God already promised this was going to happen. So why do all this? So what does she do? She's taking matters into her own hands. This is always the problem, right? When we take matters into our own hands, when we decide what we want to do, and God hasn't really said that, and I know people often, I've heard it for all the years I've been walking. I've done it myself. I'm just as guilty. I've convinced myself that the Lord told me. And he hadn't told me, but because I wanted something so bad, I rationalized it and put God in there when he wasn't there. And Rebekah's not really doing this, but she is taking things into her own hands and deciding what she could do and what's better to do. And so she comes up with this plan in order to do this. And Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, look, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man. And remember, Esau means hairy. He's cousin It. How many of you guys remember cousin It? You guys remember cousin It? He's cousin It. He's a very hairy man. And I am smooth-skinned man. It's kind of interesting. You got 2 brothers. One's this hairy gorilla, and the other one's a smooth-faced baby boy, a mama's boy. Remember we talked about that. 2 brothers, 2 different personality, 2 different features and everything. It's just interesting that, and they're twins, right? They're twins, and yet they're different. And then he says, and perhaps my father will feel me, the smoothness of my hands or body, and I shall seem to be a deceiver to him. He says, seem to be. Either you are or you aren't, man. Seems to be a deceiver to him, and I shall bring a curse on myself and not a blessing. Jacob feared getting found out more than he did of doing the right thing. Being cursed and losing the blessing was what he was concerned about. The thing about all this right here, we're in just finished verse 12. There's not one mention of seeking God on this whole thing. Not one person is seeking the Lord. In fact, chapter 27 here, everybody's doing the wrong thing. Isaac does the wrong thing. Esau, Jacob, and Rebekah. No one's doing the right thing. No one's seeking God. No one's asking the Lord what they should do or should not do. And the whole time, God had already spoke. He already told Rebekah, listen, the younger is going to be the head of the older. The older will serve the younger. It was already said. God already said it. That should have settled it. But because Jacob's saying, I'm dying, Rebekah figures she has to help out and make things happen a different way. And so Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, "Look, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I am a smooth-skinned man. Perhaps my father will fill me, and I shall be a deceiver to him, and I shall be cursed and bring a curse on myself and not a blessing." But his mother said to him, "Let your curse be on me." You should underline that. It's kind of interesting because what happens later. "Let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go and get them for me." That is, go get the goats for me. So twice so far, she says, "Obey my voice," which I found interesting because it's like, listen to what I have to say, never mind what God had said. You do what I've told you to do. Have you ever heard that from especially Christians? I know pastors that have done that to their flock. Listen, just do what I tell you. Listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. But the word says this. Listen, do what I tell you. We are never to listen to anything that is against what God has already said. He is the final authority. He is the one who says things. He knows better. You and I don't. And we can't never listen to someone who's going to put authority over God. God is the final authority. That's all there is to it. But she says, "Listen to me," or "obey my voice," and go and get them. So Jacob right here, to me, I think he should have spoke up. If he was honest, he would have said, "No, I'm not going to do that." But we know he goes along with this plan. And he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory food such as his father loved. Now, she must have been a really good cook, because she made goat taste like, regular meat. That's a good cook, man. I was trying to think of, she probably made the first vegetarian meat or something. She used the goat to make it look like it was whatever kind of meat he might have been hunting out there. But I thought, wow, she must have been good to make venison taste or make goat taste like venison. Then Rebekah took the choice clothes of her elder son Esau. The choice clothes, we'll find out later, it's really the clothes that would be like him, smell like him, reveal him, of her son Esau, which were with her in the house. So she had clothes in her house, but he's already married at this time, so he probably had his own tent, but for whatever reason she had some of his clothes in her house, and she put them on Jacob, her younger son, and she put the skin of the kids of the goats on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. So they had obviously skin that was dried and all this stuff, and she wraps them on his hands, and then she wraps them on the skin, anticipating some type of touch, whether it was up here or down here. And I don't know, to me, animal hair is thicker than human hair, isn't it? It would be almost evident that it's something different here, but again, he's old, his eyes are dim, he's not thinking quite as straight, and so she has a good plan, and she puts all this on him, and then she gave the savory food and the bread that she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. So of course all this is to deceive Isaac that he will not bless Esau. So he went to his father and said, "My father." And he said, "Here I am. Who are you, my son?" When he said, "Here I am," obviously it's Jacob's voice, unless he tried to disguise it. Now, some people, because he's smooth and kind of a mama's boy, he would have said, "Here I am, Dad." But Esau would be like, "Here I am, Dad." We don't know. But he says, "Who are you, my son?" So what I found interesting, if you look at verse 18 and then 20, 22, and 24, Jacob seems to have suspicion about something going on. He's already questioning things, and this is the first. Who are you, my son? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn. What did he just do? Lied. The first lie. He does 3 or 4 lies here. First one, it is me, Esau, your son. So first thing he does is he's lying to his dad. I have done just as you told me. Please arise, sit, eat of my game, that your soul may bless me, bless Jacob, because he's thinking it's Esau. But Isaac said to his son, how is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? Second question, right? How did this happen? And he said, because the Lord your God brought it to me. Second lie. So he's adding to his lies, except this time he said, the Lord your God bless me. That is, he put the game in front of me and I killed it. He just dropped it right here. I just walked outside and bam, there it is, and he shot the whatever it was. You know, there's a friend of ours, Mike Voigt. He's the pastor of Horizon Christian Fellowship in Klamath Falls. He was with us in Torrance. Him and his son went hunting. Couldn't shoot nothing. Looking for a deer, nothing. So they decided to come home early. The next morning, he hears a shot. His son was in his bedroom. A deer's passing by, and he shot it. It just came right up towards him. When I read it, I go, that's like little Mike. He wasn't looking for it. He was done, and the deer just popped up. That's what Jacob is saying here. This thing just dropped before me. God just brought it right before me, and so that's how I did that. And again, he's lying. Big mistake to bring God into your trickery. It's one thing to trick people. It's one thing to be a deceiver. But boy, I think it's a whole nother thing to add God into that equation and make it look like God's a part of this whole thing. And we know, of course, later, the same way he tricks and lies, it will be done to him. Sometimes I wonder if that what goes around comes around didn't come from this. Because what he did will come back on to him, as we'll read in the following chapters. And Isaac said to Jacob, please come near me. Against suspicion, right? That I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not. So Jacob went near to Isaac his father, and he felt him and said, the voice is Jacob's voice, but his hands are the hands of hairy cousin Esau. And he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hand. So he blessed him. So we see here Isaac is fooled. He's been tricked into thinking that Jacob is Esau. Isaac feels his hand and he sees that they are hairy, and he is deceived by touch. By a touch, he is deceived. And it's interesting because there's going to be more here. And then he said, are you really my son? He said, I am. Third lie. Are you really my son? Now Isaac is asking him point blank. And point blank, Jacob is lying. Just responding and nothing but lies. And he said, bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's game, so that my soul may bless you. So he brought it near to him, and he ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, come near now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near, and he kissed him, and he, Isaac, smelled the smell of his clothing. So again, he's still suspicious. And he smells his clothing. In this second episode here, Isaac deceives Jacob with the smell, because remember the mom got the choice clothing, which was the clothing that smelled like earth, smelled like a mountain man. He had a stench about him. They didn't have showers, so they didn't shower every day. But he smelled him, and he said, well, that's definitely Esau, because he stinks, and blessed him and said, surely the smell of my sons like the smell of a field, the smell of dirt, which the Lord has blessed. Yep, it smells like Esau, all right. So Isaac depended on his senses, feeling and smelling, but not on God's will. And I found that interesting that he depended on his natural abilities and senses rather than what the Lord had said. Because remember, he still, if he knew that Jacob or Esau was to serve Jacob, then he would have known he's not supposed to bless Esau. The blessing should have went to Jacob. And he's not doing this. It's like he's going against the will of God here when he should have been with the will of God. And then we find the many blessings that are mentioned here. Verse 28. Therefore may God give you of the dew of heaven, of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be master over your brethren, and let your mother's son bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be those who bless you. Isaac thought he was blessing Esau and going against the will of God. And Jacob did the wrong thing in order to receive the blessing. Again, he's with his mom, taking matters into his own hands, doing what he wanted to do, when he should have asked God what to do and waited on the Lord. Now, waiting on the Lord is one of the hardest things to do. To wait on God when he provides a promise or says something, not to take matters into our own hands. I've done it. Many people have done it. Maybe you've done it, where you knew the Lord was saying something, but you couldn't wait and you decided to do it your way. That way usually takes longer than God's way. God has a way of working things out. And remember, God has the perfect timing. When it's time, he will do what he needs to do. But if we get involved, I have learned through my own failures, this is the way I see God. God says he's going to do something. And I'm like, okay, that verse is a good verse. I'm going to hang on to that verse. I'm going to believe that promise, whatever God said to me. But then I start getting impatient. And I figure, well, I need to help God out because he's not moving fast enough. What I have learned is the moment I get involved, it's like God says, I'm out of here. Go do what you got to do. And he'll let me spin my wheels and do whatever it is I think I need to do to help him out until I finally stop and say, Lord, I'm tired. Do it your way. Oh, you're ready to let go? I'll come back and take over again. And that's the way I've seen God do things in my life, where every time I try to get involved and do stuff, he just like, let's go. Fine, go do it. And you do that enough times, you learn to stay out of God's way. Because it's quicker his way. It's perfect his way, and it'll be on perfect time his way. Our ways never really ever work out well. Sarah tried to help God and Abraham. Whole nation came about. 12 tribes. They're still fighting today, right? Trying to help out. Eve wanted to help out and listen to the devil and blew everything for sin. There's so many things in the Bible that show us every time man gets involved, things just go haywire. They get worse when we try to help God out. And sometimes you can help God out in such a way that you actually got the wrong thing. What you thought you were going to get, that you believe was from God because you helped out, turned out to be the very thing He did not want for you. And many people have made that mistake of trying to help God out and getting what they thought they wanted, only to find out that wasn't the will of the Lord. That was another will that can cause you more harm than good. Now it happened as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from hunting. He also had made savory fruit and brought it to his father, and said to his father, "Let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that your soul may bless me." And his father Isaac said to him, "Who are you?" Who's this? He said, "I'm your son, your firstborn, Esau." Then Isaac trembled exceedingly. That word tremble, he became very fearful, very frightened. He knew something was wrong. I'm wondering if he didn't realize, I blew it. I just blew it, because two things. I know that was Jacob, and I know I wasn't supposed to bless Esau. He becomes fearful, realizing he's done wrong, and said, "Who? Where is the one who hunted game and brought it to me? I ate all of it before you came, and I have blessed him. And indeed, he shall be blessed." When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and said to his father, bless me also, my father." I can only imagine this scene taking place, and Esau realizing something else happened. And when this happens, when he realized it, we're told he cried out exceedingly great and bitter cry. There's anguish when he's crying out to his father. I wish I could mimic that, but I don't think I can. But I could imagine him, bless me, my father, just in sort of a panic, sort of an unrealness that he was not to be blessed. At the same time, he becomes very angry because he lost the blessing. What is the blessing that he lost? The blessing here is the wealth of the family. The eldest son receives double portion than the next son. So a double inheritance is what he lost. Now, he didn't care about the birthright, remember? That's the right of leadership. That's the spiritual side. This is the physical side. He didn't care about the birthright. He gladly changed it for some soup. But here he's upset because he lost all the money. And how many of you have seen that when people die? The inheritance can cause so much problems. But he said, your brother came with deceit. See, he knew. Your brother came with deceit and has taken away your blessing. And Esau said, is he not rightly named Esau? Seal, heel catcher. Isn't his name perfect for him? That's exactly what he does. He tricks and he deceives. He's a heel catcher. For he has supplanted, he seized or he's tripped me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and now look, he has taken away my blessing. Well, that's a half-truth, right? He didn't take away his birthright. Esau offered it up for the soup. He was so hungry. He made a deal for that. So it's a half-truth. But the taking away of his blessing, that was true in one sense, but God had already said that was going to happen. And so he said, have you not received a blessing? Have you not reserved a blessing for me? Then Isaac answered and said to Esau, indeed, I have made him your master and all your brethren I have given to him as servants. With grain and wine I have sustained him. What shall I do now for you, my son? And Esau said to his father, have you only one blessing, my father? That's a really good question. And the answer is no, there is only one blessing for the eldest. When it's passed down to the next son. Typically, it's the elder son. But here, God had changed plans and said, no, Esau will serve Jacob. And the blessing was for Jacob. So the answer is no. He doesn't have a blessing for him. Bless me also, my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Again, he's lost the blessing. And he surrendered the birthright. And the blessing to me is the physical side, but the birthright is the more important part. Because that's becoming the head of the tribe, the spiritual head. Then Isaac, his father, answered and said to him, behold, your dwelling shall be of the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. And it shall come to pass when you become restless that you will break his yoke from your neck. The interesting thing is we know Esau did live by the land. He moved over to the east side of Jordan below the sea of the Dead Sea. That's Edom today, or I don't know what it's called today. Jordan, and he lived off the land, and he was a man of the sword. He was a man who was in many, many battles, always fighting, always having troubles in his life. And that's what basically Isaac is saying to him. You're going to live in the land that's going to be rough, and it was an okay land, but the other part is that you're going to live by the sword. You're going to live with fighting all the time. And so Esau did do this, and Jacob gained what was promised, but he lost his brother. And often you have to wonder, is it really worth that? Is it worth losing someone in the family because of money? But how many times does this happen in our society? How many people do you know that families split apart because of money? And that's what happened here. He lost the money, he's upset, he lost his brother, and Jacob gained. The funny part is, he was going to get it anyways. What they couldn't figure out is how, because they thought as well that Isaac was going to die. That's why he wanted the food. That's why he said, bring it to me and then I'll bless you. Well, Rebecca's in panic mode. She's thinking this is going to happen, and that's not what God said. So she's trying to figure out how to do this rather than call out to God and say, wait a minute, I thought you told me that Esau would serve Jacob, but this isn't the way it's going to work out. We don't know what would have happened had they done it the right way. We have no idea because they didn't do it the right way. And so what they did by deceit and deception and trickery only brought pain to Rebekah and to Jacob for years to come. Because the unknown is always scary, always scary. Whenever you don't know, it can be a scary thing. I believe and have learned, and I hope I can do this more often, and sometimes I still don't, we should always think and pray before we make a decision. Always think and pray before we make a decision. See, they didn't think about God's plan. They didn't even call out to him and say, Lord, what's going on here? You said. None of that do we see here. Isaac's going to bless Esau. Wrong. Esau, we're going to see, becomes angry, wants to kill his brother. Wrong. Jacob is involved in the trickery with Rebekah. Wrong. All these wrongs, and there's no right. And no one is seeking God, like I said. No one is asking God. They're using deceit, deception, and trickery. But in the end, it's only going to bring pain. And when you do stuff in deceit and deception, it's just going to come back at you. That's why I wrote, we should always think and pray before we make a decision. I wish I was perfect. I wish I made every decision I made was the right one. But too often I made decisions without thinking and praying and asking the Lord, what is your will? What do you want me to do? What does your word say? Show me what I need. Your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Show me your word so I know what you want me to do. We get outside of God's will, we're going to find ourselves in trouble. So Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father blessed him. The word hated here, it means to persecute. In his mind and heart, he was going to go after him. That's what this idea. Within his heart, he hated his brother because of the blessing with which his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. Now, can you imagine they're all thinking this Isaac's going to die? But he doesn't die. He lives 43 more years. And here he's thinking, as soon as dad's dead, you're done. I am going to kill you. Now, he's a hunter. He could shoot him from whatever, half mile away with the bow and arrow, right? No problem for him. But the truth was Esau was have to blame for his loss as well, because he made the deal with his birthright. And yes, Isaac stole the blessing, but it was going to be Isaac's anyways. And I can't imagine Esau didn't know this the whole time growing up. I can't imagine his mom never saying to him once, when I was pregnant, you guys were fighting, and God told me, And so, I don't know. I think it's just easier to blame other people. We were talking about that earlier. Blaming the sun. Blaming the cold weather. Blaming people rather than take responsibility for our own actions. And sometimes it's just easier to do that. It's easier to point the finger than to just acknowledge what we've done is wrong. And the words of Esau, his older brother, were told to Rebekah. Now, this is what's interesting. This plan is falling apart. Right? Esau wants to kill Jacob. Rebekah finds out. Okay, so the first plan didn't work out too good. So what does she do? She makes another plan. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger brother, and said to him, surely your brother Esau comforts himself concerning you by intending to kill you. This is what's making this guy happy. He's in peace because his plan is to kill you. We can see that. This guy has one thought, and that's to kill you and take you. So therefore, my son, third time, obey my voice. You would think by now he would say, no, I'm not obeying your voice. Your voice has got me in trouble. Arise, flee to my brother Laban in Haran. And I have a map because I know you guys, I like to keep you knowing where you're at. So in this map, Haran has a double R, but it's originally in the Bible, it's one R. Padamaram up there. So from Beersheba to Haran, I think they say it's about 500 miles. And of course, down here by the blue water, that's Ur the Chaldean. That's where they came from. Remember, they went up. Abraham's dad died. Terah died in Haran, and then they came back down. Well, now she's telling them to go to her family up there. And she said, you need to go to my brother Laban in Haran. And that's what the next chapters are all about. Everything that happens to Jacob because of this. It all starts right here. Everything the next 8 chapters, 7 chapters give us, it's all from this. All of it can be traced back to this very incident right here. And stay with him a few days. I found that interesting. Stay with him a few days until your brother's fury turns away, until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets what you have done to them. And then I will send and bring you from there. Why should I be bereaved also for you both in one day? Rebekah's thought is, listen, do what I tell you. Go to my family. Go to my brother. Go up there for a few days. Well, 500 miles alone is going to take a while to get up there and then to get back. But her thought is, in a matter of time, he's going to forget about all this. Everything will be copacetic. It's all going to be okay. He said, then I'll send for you and I'll bring you back. And she believed that her son Esau would let go of his anger and forget about it. Well, what do we know that happened? We'll read about it later, but in Genesis 31:38, it says, this is Jacob talking to Laban, these 20 years I have been with you. Now, Rebekah's saying just a little bit of time, maybe a month or two, a few days. And here it says, these 20 years I have been with you. Your eels and your female goats have not miscarried their young, and I have not eaten the rams of your flock. It was 20 years he was gone. He was gone so long that Rebekah never saw him return home. That's where the pain comes in. He has to leave for his trickery through the advice of his mother, and he would never see his mother again. And then in the next chapters, we will read of all the stuff that happens to him because of all this that was done right here by him. And Rebekah said to Isaac, now she's talking to her husband, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. Now, Heth means dread. Heth is the descendants of Canaan. They are the Hittites. And we know that Isaac, in chapter 26, married 2 Hittite women, and they became their wives. So he married Gentile women is the idea. And so she's using this excuse for the reason why Jacob has to leave. So that if Jacob takes a wife of the daughters of Heth, like those who are the daughters of the land, what good will my life be to me? So she's wanting to make Isaac feel sad for her. She's telling him why he needs to go. But we know behind the story, that's not the reason. The reason is she's fearful that Esau's going to kill him. So she's got to figure out a way to get him out. But she can't send him. Isaac has to send him. He's the head of the household. So Rebekah tricks him again to send Isaac to her brother Laban, or to Jacob's uncle Laban, by saying that he's going to marry Hittite women, and that's not good. That's her whole logic here. So she doesn't want him to marry a Hittite woman, but she really wants us to protect him from Esau, which I get. You want to protect your child. But again, she's lying, and now she's tricking her own husband for the second time. Rebekah, because of her deceit and trickery, like I said, she won't ever see him. In fact, Genesis 49:31 tells us, and her name after this chapter, I think there's one more time, in 28 maybe, it's never mentioned again until chapter 49, and it says there, and they buried Abraham and Sarah, his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah, his wife, and there I will bury Leah, Jacob's wife. So she's not mentioned again until she's found buried in the tomb after she died. She never sees her son. The cost of all this brought anger, brought fear, brought suspicion, brought separation, and all this could have been avoided had Jacob and Rebekah simply called out to the Lord and ask for his direction, for his guidance. How are you going to make this happen, Lord? Because right now it sure doesn't seem like it's going to happen. How many of us have learned often God steps in at the very last minute? We have all experienced that. We don't know how, and then something miraculous takes place and it all works out. God could have simply touched Esau's heart to say, you know what, brother? This is the Lord's will. Take it. I don't even care. I'm happy just going hunting. God could have just touched them. We don't know what God could have used. And we'll never find out because these people took matters into their own hand. The cost of all this brought nothing but misery and mistrust and deception by everyone. And not one person did the right thing. Not one of them. I find that amazing in a chapter of people who are godly that no one thought to ask God for help or guidance or direction. Can you imagine how simple it would have been to pray, Lord, what should I do? How should I do it? No one sought God. I'm going to leave you with this last verse that I think fits well right here. Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 23. But this is what I command them, God is speaking to Israel, saying, obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people, and walk in all my ways that I have commanded you. And notice this, that it may be well with you. Jeremiah writes later, hey, you know what God says? God says you obey his voice. Now Jacob obviously heard his mom say God had said, there are two nations in my womb, and the older will serve the younger. God spoke. All he had to do was listen and follow what God said through his mother, instead of him listening to the mother say, just do what I tell you. And everything would have been well. But because they didn't listen, and they did it their own way, it didn't work out well. What do we learn? Well, one thing I have learned, God does not need my help. I need his. Right? God doesn't need our help. We need his help. That's what I learned from this chapter is, listen, I don't want to do things my way. I want to do things God's way. Even when it seems like it's the wrong way, going the wrong way, you know what? He already said it, and what he says will come to pass. It always has, and it always will. I don't have to understand it in my own mind. I just have to believe it because he spoke it. And that's what we all should do, is remember, listen, I need God's help. Amen? Father, we thank you that these lessons bring us truths for our own lives. The failure of Isaac and Esau and Rebekah and Jacob, we're guilty at some point for our own failures. But you give us opportunity as we study and read to learn that we don't have to take matters into our own hands. We need to trust your word for what it says. If your word tells us to move to another location, we just need to do it. If your word shows us we're going to marry someone, we're going to marry someone. If your word tells us we're going to be called into ministry to do this or that, that's what's going to happen. But if we put our hands in it, I believe often it's unfortunate that we just delay the plans you have for us. I believe Jacob received the blessing, but it cost him 20 years away from his family, from his land before he would return back and fulfill that blessing. All because he did it his way. Lord, help us not to do it our way. In Jesus' name we pray.